Okay, and the magic machine tells me that I'm live. Walter Bosley, how many times am I going to find you stealing that line? I don't even mind because it shows. And I'm happy because I'm clearly losing my mind, citing numbers, cracking codes, traveling through time, embracing the bizarre, saying nonsensical things on the internet. The my booking on the Walter Bosley channel should be happening in 1, 4, 3, and at this rate, if I keep on saying insane, unsupported, unscientific claims, I'll be at Contact in the Desert 2024. I mean, Contact in the Desert 2024 will be attended by no one, but I'll have finally made it to the winner's circle. We will say hello. I will greet the live chat. I will say hello to the live chat, and I'll probably most likely shrink the live chat down so that I can kind of try and do the thing of trying to get through and just do. I don't have much of an agenda, but I will just kind of travel through the materials, and kind of what I want to do is just kind of see if I want to take a swing on seeing if I can just go through the materials without and reviewing the kind of the rules that we've written down so far. If doing them without ceremony, without too much flowery language, and if I don't jump back and forth between too many different points of view, if that might make a little bit more clarity come through. Because the actual mechanics of what we're doing and the things involved, I don't think in their details or in their execution are actually that complicated. Where the complications happen is that everything in my MetaRPG system, as opposed to most traditional tabletop role-playing games, or even traditional kind of more storytelling games, or even journaling games, is the amount of just pure subjectivity that's involved here, and the fact that we're not engaging in leaving the real reality space and entering into some sort of virtual space to live out some sort of other existence. We are not trying to reduce ourselves down to the tabletop, to some sort of mysterious, imaginary virtual land of the theater of the mind, in order to live out another world of heroes or sci-fi adventures. We're not going into, or similarly, into a game book, or some other mechanic this way, nor are we going into a computer virtual game to do likewise, nor are we doing any sort of LARP or live action role playing game or theater production where we are stopping the contemporary world and saying we are, us players are going to voluntarily stop this space and make it this virtual space. Though we are here in our manifest bodies, it is still as if we are in another world, not Earth 23 or whatever it is, not the contemporary reality that, of 2023, modern day Earth, but rather some other place. We are taking, Wrigley Field of wherever, and we're saying it's the land of Bajork, and as we're having this grand LARP of the nation of whatever. The SSP, TTT, whatever you want to call it, the MetaRPG is not a LARP. It's not a live action role playing game, because we are not ending or leaving any sort of world to go to another world. We are playing as ourselves in this reality. We are merely gaming this reality. We are gaming here, though we are still doing things like going to or attempting to go different places. Now, as I'm engaged in this activity and as I'm describing this game, I've been also, going back and forth and kind of describing it, from different points of view, describing my perspective as, from a third party perspective, describing me and my role within it, and also just, making justifications for it, kind of trying to explain it as well as selling it. And I can understand why by taking a kind of metaphysical, kind of metaphorical thing that's kind of hard to understand itself, and then also jumping around from all these different points of view while describing it could really make a muddle. So I was hoping to kind of see if we could kind of take another swing of maybe even, just, pulling back and saying, I've done enough videos where I've said, tried to describe, hey, about these new age concepts, about these mystical concepts, in order to avoid, I guess, the feeling of, someone's going to take this video out of context or my statements out of context or make fun of me or whatever, to constantly make every statement that I make about a tarot card or about a number or about numerology and say, well, remember, folks, I'm saying this stuff and I understand this stuff, but I believe it, but I don't believe it. And doing this endless, having the philosophical qualification over every statement and every new introduction, and then doing that kind of every time that we do the subject, I think is just, can be kind of, nuts. And then it can also add to a lot of confusion. So I thought maybe that if I just kind of pulled back a little and then just kind of tried to, shoot through again, simpler, that maybe we would, it would be an easier thing. I also thought we could also have the opportunity to, we watched the episode of The Simpsons again last night, and I did this thing of taking spells from it, like, I've described. And we'll go over all this stuff. As I said, I plan on recapitulating these rules. So we'll talk about this notion of taking spells. So I thought that as many of you, some of you, though not all of you, may have watched this episode as well, the episode from 2003 that aired on February 9th, 2003, yesterday, you might be able to have kind of a point of view that if you see me go over these spells that I generated from this episode, that you would have a kind of a perspective on how I did it, and therefore kind of see how it works. And then if I then take those spells generated and then repeat what I was talking about as far as taking spells and talking about how they could be used, say, in regards to the simple stats or abilities that we see in a game book, like the simple RPG systems we see in a game book, how that might help illustrate in a simple way how these little kind of mini games can be played within this context of the meta RPG. This being the fact that, um, you can play, traditional tabletop role playing games, solo role playing games, video games, while you're also gaming reality and playing the meta RPG. It all gets whoa, kind of this. And some people would say, well, it gets whoa, or it started and remains stupid. Some people might say, I mean, it may not be for everybody. And some people, like I said, if you endeavor to do anything creative, artistic, there are those people who will say, hey, maybe this didn't kind of come together because there was something fundamentally wrong with the execution or the idea, or, like the idea didn't work. Or maybe it's just, like, hey, maybe it's just not an idea that, has reached its time. Or maybe there's just, some problem with how I describe it. And it's funny because as we go through things, I also just some simple things that I wanted to share with you that I saw over my adventures in the meta RPG, playing the meta RPG, and I thought I would do that too. So I basically just all I have today with you is just like some materials that I was just going to kind of go through. And as we go through this, what I'll do is it'll basically be kind of, I guess, kind of like not exactly a total grab bag, but just kind of like a loose grab bag where I'll go from this to this to this, and we'll just go through. And at the end, I'll hopefully be done, and hopefully it won't take too long. I'm aware of the fact that my videos go long, and I think people really enjoy those when they're hanging out and they enjoy them and they watch them as live streams, but they may not work so well as far as the raw communication or the pure communication of ideas. So we might just kind of try to understand that some videos we may want to have them turn out long, and some videos we may want to turn out concise. So I'll just simply say hello to Golden Coin 100 and award you your gold medal for live chat participation. We see that Jilly Beans has managed to Beans has come in and grabbed that silver. We have Philip Blair. Philip Blair saying, "Yum, blueberries, getting into the mood. It tastes the rainbow," getting that bronze medal. The elephant in the room saying hello to the elephant in the room. No medal, but an honorable mention. I also see that Pragmagic is here. And with that, there you go. With that, I see we got enough people here. All right, there you go. So we've got there, there you go. And so I will just respectfully, not because I don't love people, not because I don't like people, but because I want to kind of keep the party going, I'm just shrinking down the live chat. So the MetaRPG kind of builds off earlier stuff that I had been doing on my earlier channel, CW Chanter, including this time travel, this secret space program time travel technology that we had been doing with a kind of more LARPy thing, the thing we were calling a LARP, where we were artistically making fun of so-called Illuminati or secret space program whistleblowers, people who were coming forward in ufology circles and new age circles and conspiracy theory circles with these wild tales of being abducted as kids and age regression, and they were fighting reptilian alien spider people on Mars, and this, that, and the other thing. And it was a hoot and a hootenanny, and this scene has been going on for decades and decades and decades. It goes back to the 1950s with guys like a guy called Valiant Thor, who claimed to be from Venus. There's just, there's always been, kind of a scene of people like this. And there was kind of a big resurgence of this around like 2013 going up into, kind of died off after a while, but 2015 and after that was a big time for these people. And on my channel, I had kind of developed a reputation for making fun and teasing a lot of these people. And I had studied them so much that I basically learned their game plan. And I'd also developed this thing, this fascination with nostalgia loops, this notion that in media history and in media culture, that basically by the time that 2018 had rolled around, really by the time 2000 rolled around is when I first started noticing it. But by 2018, it was like some sort of sick joke. You can also look to a futurist by the name of media analyst by the name of Mark Fisher for a lot of work in regards to, like dead cultures or recycled cultures, the slow cancellation of the future. You can search on Twitter for my old hashtag. I used to use hashtag no new music for this stuff. And we talk about this thing like, the nostalgia loops and this notion that, that by now, basically all that's happening is that in culture, everything is basically just a recycling of stuff that happened either 10, 20, 25, or 30 years before. And then based on the fact that those recycling loops have been going on, that there are now like feedback loops on top of that. So you got 40-year nostalgia loops, because when we look back to 2003 from 2023, I'm in a feedback nostalgia loop for 20 years. When we get there, I can tell you, I haven't lived through 2003. It was just 1983. It was like a sad joke. I mean, it was just the 80s. I mean, that's how I discovered the nostalgia loops. It was like being in a Philip K. Dick novel. I mean, it was just, look, from The Wedding Singer on, it's just basically, look at South Park making fun of Family Guy, saying, guys, wake up. It's just an 80s reference, and this. And you go, yeah, but, don't you guys realize that, The Simpsons were just the 70s reference, the 70s reference, and that. It really was. If you think about it, really the difference between, how most people analyze the Family Guy and think the Family Guy is so stupid compared to how smart we think the Simpsons are. A lot of that has to do with the kind of the way people's attitude is about the 70s and the culture of the 60s and the 70s. Oh man, like Stop the War, and true political analysis of, and the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix versus like the Go-Go's, and Duran Duran and shit. It's like looking at the 80s and saying, oh man, that's crapola. But the wackadoo, joyous 60s and 70s, that was when we were making some real headway and really figuring out, like, bullshit, man. That's when we really knew that we really had to settle the man's hash. Because if you look at the early 70s Simpsons reference, early Simpsons episodes, really a lot of it is just kind of like, I mean, they're not as brazen, but the reason that Family Guy is set up for, to hit that T-ball, down and do Family Guy 80s reference for so many years is because we've been, by the Simpsons, really, in that 70s show and all that, it's just that. Anyway, it is what it is. Anywho, so because of this nostalgia loop stuff, and because of my analysis of these so-called conspiracy theory secret space program whistleblowers, I melded the two and kind of came up with this notion of this time travel technique of this kind of entrainment hypnosis of going back in time through only immersing yourself in a culture, in the media of a given era on this nostalgia loop. And so we would go back in time, where I said you could go back in time. And this is like, hence we get this title of this video. It's kind of like Scientology, the RPG, so not going back and forth and saying, going this, going that, just from now on saying, I am C.W. Chanter, and I know how to travel through time, and I can tell you how to do it. It's easy peasy lemon squeezy. Mock me now, make fun if you will, but I tell you, if you mock prior to investigation, you are the fool. Because as I stand before you now, it is right in front of you. The secret I offer to you for free. You, yes, you, can travel through time. Only backwards. Hey, what can you do? But by traveling back through time consistently with us as a crew, stick together, we don't get separated, we will undoubtedly influence the past. You say now, hey, my friends, I have seen enough science fiction movies, books, and all that jazz to know that messing with the past, no mas bueno. And I tell you, hey, guess what? Just because one science fiction author, basically H.G. Wells, came up with the concept of don't fuck with the past, it'll screw everything up, then everyone went with that. It's actually not true. It's just not true. It's incredibly flexible. We go there, we fuck with it, we do change it, things change. The Mandela effect, that was us. Fact. I did not start incorporating the 10-year nostalgia loop into the time travel technology until 2023. Fact. No one in this community made a big deal, made a point of pointing out the fact that the Mandela effect began in 2013 until I incorporated the 10-year nostalgia loop into the time travel technology. Cannot be denied. Cannot be denied. If you find one reference within the secret space program community, within the whistleblower community, within any third phase of the moon, if you find one reference within calendar year 2023 or calendar year 2022 even, hey, I'll give you calendar year 2021 of someone going, hey, you know what? We're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of the Mandela effect. It's a big deal that it started in 2013. I will do something to you south of the border. I'm cleaning things up. But turn around and you'll get the message loud and clear. Mic check. That's my reference. Mike check. You hear them? You know the guy? Call him up. Ask him what he thought. Okay, anywho, check this out. So you go back in time. So you pick one of these years, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years in the past, and you entrain your brain to go there. Now, listen, there are many techniques like this. You could see a movie with Christopher Reeve called Time After Time. There are many people that would use techniques like this that would rely heavily on people using specific cues that were specific to them, that things that would bring them back to specific moments in their life, things that they had actually experienced. This is not intrinsic or necessary for my system to work. It is not necessary that the musical piece, the book, the comic book that you read from 2003, if that's your target year, that you experienced in 2003, that you actually saw it in 2003 or read it in 2003 or listened to it in 2003. All that matters is that it's from 2003. I can also tell you this, that I remind you at this point that it is intrinsic to how we do this to know that part of how this thing works is the generating and sustaining of magical mental energy over time. And part of how we do this is by making sure that you stay relaxed, cool, chill, and having fun. A lot of magical systems put a lot of pressure on a person. You got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do it this way. You know what I mean? The magical color combination is green flecked with gold on a ivory hue of 8th degree of Bina. What the hell are you talking about? What? Sagittarius degree of who? What the hell are you talking about? You got to do the operation thus so and like this, and the preparation of 3 days of the salt water on your left toe. What the? Come on, relax. Oh, I watched this movie. I was trying to go to 2003. I saw this movie, the credits rolled, and it turns out CW, the motherfuckers at Plex, they told me, the streaming service told me it was from 2003, but when the credits rolled, it said it was from 1997. I'm fucked over here. No, come on, relax. First of all, 1997 was from before 2003, so you're still okay. But beyond that, it's okay. Come on. The point is your intent. The point is your desire to drive forward. The point is playing the game and remaining chill and not panicking and having a good time and thinking and staying engaged and staying active and taking the opportunity to turn dumb, meaningless activities or activities that could be meaningless, like sitting there, vegging out in front of the TV, or just sitting there, just playing a video game, and turning it into an investigation, turning it into active life, getting involved, turning yourself from an input as much as you can into an output. It's an expression I call talking to the universe until it talks back. Bearing in mind, you don't want to be so open-minded that your brain falls out. Don't go crazy. If you start freaking out, you got to know when to turn the magic on. You got to know when to turn the magic off. Know when to get a glass of water. Know when to step outside, right? Know when to relax. We'll take a moment here. Lon Milio Duquette. I want to show you The Magic of Aleister Crowley, A Handbook of Rituals. Interesting stuff. So we were watching episodes of The Simpsons from 2003 and 2023, and we were watching them on the day that they originally aired in 2003, like 20 years to the day. And we weren't like synchronizing our watches. Didn't matter if you all watch at the same time. We'll go over the spells that I generated from last night's episode. But when we watched the first episode that we did, I think we were looking the next day for effects, and then what I saw was that the local Barnes and Noble, that was my favorite Barnes and Noble, with this world famous, what I consider world famous used book section, was announced it's closing down after nearly 30 years of operation. So we're getting nostalgia loops on top of that. If you go to the episode that I did on my channel covering it, you'll get all the synchronicities I saw with the closing of the show. So here we have this book, and you see that it came from that Barnes and Noble. You see it was $8. 8 is one of my magic numbers. And we get here and it gets interesting. Here's 1993. That's the 30-year nostalgia loop. Now, here's what's interesting. This book was originally published under a different name in 1993, okay? And then it was republished in 2003. So this book actually is great because it's like a bridger. Like these books, because I'm big on these, we use books from a given year to go to that year. If a book like can be tied to 2 different years, you can use it to kind of like jump back and forth. This is all just like games. It's all just fun. So we got that. So I saw that and I saw, it's like, oh my God. It's on the 30-year nostalgia loop, and it's directly on the 20-year nostalgia loop too. So it's like automatically already like a bridger, and it's already like a portal, but it's also already like a magical work. It's spellcraft and it's ritual. So we're already like, we're off to the races. But then I swear to God. So I had this book. Now here's what's crazy. I have the original version of this book. That's called The Magic of Thelema, or The Rituals of Thelema, I think it's called. And then I have this version. And both of them I purchased, with the intent to read them, of course. And both of them have gone unread. So to the best of my knowledge, I haven't read either of these. So come yesterday, and I watched the episode of The Simpsons, okay, and then whatever. And then I'm just like, chilling for the rest of the night. And I'm like just doing some reading. So I'm like, oh, like, let me just actually crack this open and start reading. And I start reading, and I'm not saying this has got anything to do with the episode of The Simpsons that we watched, but I did see something. I started reading, and I thought that it was just so great, because right from the get-go, it started reminding me of things that we had been talking about and things that we had been saying. So this is from the foreword that was written by someone called Jimenez Beta, who's the Frater Superior of the Ordo Templi Orientis, or at least was so. I guess as of 2003, or maybe in 1993. I forget when this foreword was originally written. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. So think of synchronicities and think of things that might bring memories to you of recent stuff that we've been discussing or talking about. And I'll just do that, and then that will be that portion that I want to bring to your attention, and then we'll just move on. Aleister Crowley possessed far too much technical knowledge of magic to readily understand the problems of ordinary students. He frequently asked his younger colleagues to help make his teachings more accessible, and once explained that it's the sort of thing I can't do myself, not knowing the scope of the mind of the gentle reader. Like other gentle readers who have delved into Crowley's system on their own. Well, no, that just this really just stuck out to me. It's the sort of thing I can't do myself, not knowing the scope of the mind of the gentle reader. Help make his teachings more accessible. That's what jumped out to me. That was the thing. And it's funny because when I first read it, it seemed to me like it struck me, and I was like, I thought it was like I would have sworn to God that it was like 2 paragraphs of Aleister Crowley saying to his younger students, I can't do any of this. You have to help me. And like I read it, it's like it's just It's just two sentences. He frequently asks his younger colleagues to help make his teachings more accessible, and once explained, that's the sort of thing I can't do myself, not knowing the scope of the mind of the gentle readers. I swear to God, when I first read it last night, it goes to show you the influence of magic and the influence of magical thinking. You got to be careful. In the cold light of day, I swear to God, under the influence of that episode of The Simpsons, when I read that, I was like, I have to bring this into the office. I brought this whole book in because I swear to God, that for whatever reason, I was like, everyone's gonna get such a kick out of that. I was like, I swear to God, I thought it was like 15 paragraphs long. Occultism frequently gives ample ground. Occultism frequently gives ample grounds for criticism to its detractors by making insupportable claims for vaguely defined powers. The whole compassed by nonsensical theory. As Israel Regardie did before him, Duquette avoids this. No, doesn't matter. That's it. Occultism frequently gives ample grounds for criticisms to its detractors by making unsupportable claims for vaguely defined powers, the whole compassed by nonsensical theory. Brilliant. That was brilliant. Okay. Okay. Let's see if there's another thing I thought that was good. That was it. I bet you that was it. I swear to God. Here we go. Oh, no. Okay. Then there's also this section of the introduction. Okay, The Magic of Aleister Crowley, a handbook of the rituals of Thelema. Wait a minute, that sounds suspiciously like a book that was first published in 1993 called The Magic of Thelema, a handbook of the rituals of Aleister Crowley. You're right, but is it the same book? Well, yes and no. So this is a book that was originally came out in 1993 that was then republished in 2003 under a different name. Okay, so putting it on the 20-year to the 30-year nostalgia loop, as I already said. But where do I want to go with this? Here we go. Okay. Perhaps the most important change is the title itself, The Magic of Aleister Crowley. I believe more accurately conveys the essence of what lies between the covers, and while it is true that you can't judge a book by its cover, it is also true that you won't read a book if you don't understand the cover. I must sadly report that for the past 10 years, the first thing I most often hear when I hand someone a copy of The Magic of Thelema is something like, The Magic of Thelma? Who's Thelma? By the time I explain to them that it's not Thelma, it's Thelema, which is a Greek word for will, and then attempt to explain about such things as the evolution of magical formula and a philosophy that puts the individual at the center of the universe, their eyes glaze over completely. The name Aleister Crowley, on the other hand, provokes a far more animated response. My God, wasn't he some kind of devil worshiper? Or into the dark side, are we? It seems that everybody who has ever heard the name Aleister Crowley has an instant and often very negative opinion of the man. Nevertheless, nearly everyone is intrigued and wants to hear a little more. It's likely that at this very moment, you are reading these words not because of your burning desire to know more about Thelema, but because you want to know more about Aleister Crowley and his works. That's not surprising. Crowley is far more famous today than he ever was during his lifetime. While he lived, he was lionized by a tiny group of students and supporters, an odd mix of free-thinking, spiritual bohemians and eccentric intelligentsia. His public reputation was molded almost entirely by a vilifying string of tabloid articles filled with half-truths, distortions, and downright lies concerning his philosophy and activities. At the time of his death in 1947, his serious disciples had dwindled to near extinction, and with them, the life and work of this remarkable man seemed doomed to oblivion. Listen, for exactly 20 years, Crowley would, for all intents and purposes, lie in dead obscurity. Then a miracle of Dionysian scale occurred. He was quite literally raised from the dead by the most famous living entity on the planet, the Beatles. And if you want to talk about Beatles and scarab beetles and reincarnation and resurrection and ancient Egypt and Aleister Crowley, there's a lot there too. It was 20 years ago today, Sergeant Pepper told the band to play. Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band was arguably the most anticipated piece of musical art in human history, and its magnificently colorful album's jacket was, for a time, one of the most recognizable works of modern visual art in the world. Designed by a pop artist, Peter Blake, the cover was an orderly collage of 62, 6 plus 2 is 8, of the Beatles' People We Like. In the top row, sandwiched between Hindu holy man Swami Sri Yukteswar Giri and Mae West, beams the unmistakable visage of Aleister Crowley. Beatles fanatics, and they were and are legion, dissected every word and of every cut of that historic album in hopes of uncovering secret political messages or spiritual truths. They also spent countless hours trying to identify every face on the cover and ponder why the Beatles would number that person among the people they liked. It was easy to guess why they would include holy men, hipsters, and heroes, personal friends, and movie stars. Everyone in the collage collage seemed to be someone most any of us would like. Everyone, that is, except Aleister Crowley. Of all 62 people we like, Aleister Crowley was the only one with a patently evil reputation. Some of us wanted to know more about this man. I'm not suggesting that the Beatles consciously contrived to resurrect a worldwide interest in Aleister Crowley. I truly believe that one or more of them, most likely John Lennon, simply knew enough about Crowley to warrant his inclusion. Nonetheless, since 1967, interest in Crowley has mushroomed. Now remember, 67, that means like that great satanic conflagration in 88 would have been just 21 years after Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album came out, right? My, how times have changed. Interest in Crowley has mushroomed. Currently, there are no less than 7 biographies in print, 3 published in just the past 3 years. His written works, which until the mid-1970s were few and nearly impossible to find, are now available everywhere and translated into many languages. Perhaps most astonishing is the fact that the magic of Aleister Crowley, his thelemic philosophy, his program of scientific illumination, is embraced by thousands of people from all walks of life throughout the world. Even the English public, whose opinion of him in life was so terribly misguided, is now awakening to the national treasure of this native son represents. In 2002, my magic number is 22, the BBC conducted a poll of 30,000 Britons, asking them to name their greatest Briton. Voted number 73 among the top 100 greatest Britons of all time, between King Henry V and Robert the Bruce, was the famous poet, author, and philosopher Aleister Crowley. Love is the Law, Love Under Will. That was written by Lon Melio Duquette in the vernal equinox of 2003. So from 1967, from 1947, he dies. We're talking about the 20-year nostalgia loop. Exactly 20 years after his death, he is resurrected. How and why? All we know is 20 years, 67, 87, 97, about 25, 45 years after that, he is in the record books. A powerful message about the 20-year nostalgia loop, and a powerful message about the 20-year nostalgia loop that I would not have found except for the concentration of this practice. Why do this? Why do anything? Is the master a wise man or a fool? Are we engaged in some great folly, or are we engaged in pursuing some great reward. I tell you, I lead you to glorious times. If you follow my instructions and do as I say, your life will become more interesting. Things will become more exciting, though things might become a little more scary. I'm not inviting you to play an alternative to Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not even suggesting that you play a game that's a little bit more scary than Dungeons and Dragons, because you got to put yourself out there, man, a little bit more. It involves a little bit more acting. This is not just putting on an accent at the table. We do dress up. We get out there. This isn't a LARP. This is atomic dare to be stupid. When we do things like watch the episodes of The Simpsons on the 20-year nostalgia loop, the temptation is for me to come the next day and want to have things to show you or things to talk about. And I told you, like any good prognosticator of the future, like any prophet, there's enough in the world today and things are interconnected enough and there's news, there's going to be always something to talk about. And look, and we see, and I can see in my own track record, we've seen 4 episodes of The Simpsons, and I would say after every one of them, we've had something to talk about. Yes, indeed. And yes, there was certain times there's been crazy things like the death of Lisa Marie Presley, but there's also been things like what I talked about. Yeah, it was crazy, but it's very personal to me. I mean, I don't know how you're going to experience the local closing of a Paramus Barnes and Noble the way we universally experience the death of Priscilla Presley. I mean, I mean, Lisa Marie Presley. It's a different thing, right? We have this Turkey earthquake, but the earthquake in Turkey did not happen today or the day after the Simpsons episode aired. But I can tell you this interesting fact, because when this earthquake happened in Turkey, I did know, hey, well, look, wars and rumors of war. There are always earthquakes in Turkey. Turkey is like San Francisco. It's like it's on a fault line. It's like California. Turkey has earthquakes, devastating earthquakes every year. Ethiopia has famines. Turkey has earthquakes. Turkey has earthquakes, devastating earthquakes. When I say devastating earthquakes, they have earthquake. If you look at there's a Wikipedia for the list of earthquakes in Turkey, and it's at least every like I mean I'm incorrect. Like every year, like it's like I would say that every other God no. I mean look at it. I mean look at their record. I mean it's like every 5 years there's just there's at least 50 deaths due to earthquakes. I mean, it's crazy. But the hugest ones happen this one happened. There are currently over 23,420 deaths recorded on Wikipedia for this last one that happened on the 6th of February 2023. Okay? The last one that was that significant was the famous Izmit earthquake of 1999 that occurred on the 17th of August 1999. 7 plus 1 is 8. That occurred at 3:02 local time AM. Now, of course, when I saw those dates, I said, well, we got to figure out what the dates are between them. I don't know. There is exactly 23 years, 5 months, and 20 days between those two earthquakes. 23 years, 5 months, and 20 days between the August 17th, 1999 earthquake that had 17,127 deaths and the current earthquake that has over at this point over 23,000. So if I add 7 plus 1 for the 17,000, I get 8, and then it is what it is. So there you go. So I mean, look, it is what it is. And I'm looking at the live chat again. So it is what it is. We can look to the way the time traveling secret space program, time traveling technology works is super easy. Say we're going back to 2003 on the 20-year nostalgia loop. You don't want to jump back and forth all the time. You want to pick your target year, and you want to go and you want to stay there as long as you can. Don't drive yourself crazy. Don't go nuts, but try and stay on target for as long as you can. That's you're only listening to music from 2003. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be music that you listened to in 2003. You don't even have to have been from. You could have been born after 2003. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you're doing everything you can to put yourself in 2003 as best you can. Listening to music from 2003. Playing games from 2003, whether it be a role-playing game, like a tabletop role-playing game, a game book, or a video game. Reading books from 2003. Got to read a book from 2003 or before. And if you're going to read something, and it's got to be something from, you can't do something from 2003. You can't find anything you like from 2003. Read something from before 2003. Listen to something from before 2003. But try, your first choice to be something from your year. Barring that, something from before then, maybe as early as you can, like as close as you can to that year. But always never driving yourself crazy, never going OCD about it, never making it a big deal, never breaking your heart, never breaking your stones, never breaking your ovaries or whatever you got. Never giving yourself a hard time. Always reminding yourself that the primary purpose of this activity is to give you joy, happiness, and satisfaction. You're supposed to be gaming here, and gaming is supposed to be fun. The fact that you're gaming in order to trick yourself, in order to be doing sort of, magical procedures on the low, that's just, that's the bonus. You know what I mean? It's in the end, you know what I mean? That's the ends, but whatever. Don't worry about it. Have fun. When you're going back to the past, when we were doing this and developing this game system, we started, here, and I started first just introducing the concept of from this prior incarnation of me on CW Chanter of this secret space program, time travel technology, and introducing here first just introducing the concept of the secret space program, time travel technology as a game, reintroducing it here, that previous LARP, reintroducing it here as a MetaRPG. And then it was only after introducing that initial concept that, as a guy that was talking about role-playing games and therefore started talking about playing role-playing games in context of the MetaRPG, started incorporating new elements of role-playing and role-playing gaming into this previous structure of the SSP, TTT, the time travel technology. And that introduced the concept of the creation of these time warriors. And that's when I first started taking notes and making these new rules that I started writing down. New time travel project. Let's see what I started doing this year. Building up the mythology as we go. We are the music makers and we are the dreamers of dreams. How that relates to magic, self-reinforcing feedback loops. Let's see what's going on here. The saga continues. Intro subject. Rule to be recorded, die energy generation. Oh, so easy. Just roll dice. So this was the first thing that I came up with, was the notion of this, making this primary motivation, the generation of energy via rolling dice. Now, look, I mean, as we learn by doing and as we generate by doing, I think some of these things like came into context, and like I think the die energy generation was important. I'll tell you this. I was noticing that I was doing a lot of things of like watching the movies and generating the spells and taking notes and making videos for you guys. But there was this weird thing where there was a little bit of a drop off, and I don't know if it was like an attitude I had, or maybe there was like a little bit of a little patch point or something. It might have been around the time that we had those videos that had to come off, that had to be taken offline. And it wasn't like I thought that there was like a causal relation, but I did say to myself, I said, oh, did you roll like dice that night, or did you roll dice the night before? And I was like, oh, yeah, I had stopped that. I'd made the spells, I had done this, I had noted that I had the opportunities, but I just didn't actually go through with it. That step, at the end of the night, I just didn't do that. I said, oh no, you should do that. You should definitely, always make sure that you're doing some sort of rolling dice and putting a calculation in. It's like, but it's like because I was like, oh, you should do that because you written that down. You put that in the notebook and pen. So it's kind of like, you know what I mean? Like the brown M&Ms, like the purpose of the brown M&Ms. We'll get like Van Halen's brown M&Ms. Like people know this story. Like the first thing was they did it originally was because, it was an easy way to get money, because the people wouldn't pay attention to the rider. They wouldn't pay attention and take the brown M&Ms out. Therefore, they would violate that clause of the contract. Violating that clause of the contract meant that they defaulted on this policy. Defaulting on the policy meant that the band got a bonus, got like a $10,000 bonus. It was something nutty that they got for violating this one. If you didn't follow the provisions of the rider, you agreed to default on this to the tune of $10,000. Like that was the whole thing. And so that was like the gimmick. But the guys that used to do safety checks for the crew and Van Halen and all that stuff started to catch on to something. This is true. And what they caught on to was they started paying attention. And what they started paying attention to was they started paying attention to when the managers and the band, when Van Halen got really, really excited. And they paid attention to when they got really, really excited at a particular point. And when they would get excited was when they realized that they got the bonus off the M&Ms. And why did the security guys and why did the safety guys get excited or pay attention to the managers and the band getting excited over the M&Ms? Because if the band got excited over the M&Ms, it meant that someone didn't pay attention to the contract. And because they didn't pay attention to the contract, they didn't pay attention to the fact that the brown M&Ms had to be removed. And if they didn't pay attention to the contract and the fact that the brown M&Ms had been removed, that means they didn't pay attention, and therefore they had defaulted and the band got more money. And that's why the band was excited, and that's why the manager was excited. But the safety guys and the security guys knew, whoa. There's another thing that we got to pay attention to, because now we know something. The guys that run the place, the guys that run this joint, they don't pay attention. Check safety twice. They said the outlets are up to code. They said the outlets are up to code. Get your flashlights. We're checking the outlets. And every time, the Van Halen guys, the safety guys, the people that were really responsible for making sure that this dude that does lighting doesn't fall to his fucking death and, become, his wife becomes a widower or whatever. Those guys would pay attention. And when they realized that, it's a brown M&M night, we got another group of people who don't pay attention to the rider. Yeah, the band's excited because they got $10,000. The manager's excited because they got whatever off of these people not paying attention to the brown M&Ms. But the other guys know, hustle back, double check, because we got another house where these people don't pay attention. And maybe they don't find anything, but they knew enough to look. And that's the other point of this. When you make rules, you know enough to whether you're doing something or not. If you write something down, roll the dice at the night, do something. Even if you do something, if you write, roll 2 6-sided dice and say, fuck your mother, roll them. Why? Because when you stop doing that is when you start saying, oh, fuck it, don't worry about it. Well, then it starts there. And then before you know it, look, I have a religion that's got basically says, hey man, all you got to do is chant every day and read a spiritual text every day. And, and reading a spiritual text is you could close your eyes and visualize the words John 3:16 in your head. And that counts as reading. and you could chant like fucking, you know, Baba Booey, and that can count as chanting. You know, if that's how hard up you are, and you just got to make sure you check it off your list because you just want to make sure that you go to bed having done the shit you got to do. To make it, when you make it that easy, you make it that easy to make sure that no one has a real excuse to say, I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? We're not asking you to remain pure, shave your head, and, you know, stay abstinent for 90 days in the, you know, the full moon of the light of, you know, the Lord, and only take cold showers. We're telling you to like roll dice at the end of the day after you watch fucking Porky's Revenge and took notes on it. You know what I mean? It's like we're not, you know, we're not blowing out your hole here, man. You know what I mean? We're really not, you know, asking you to go double wide. You know what I mean? And would that be too much to ask? We're just asking you to believe in yourself, essentially, when we do that, hombre. Do you know what I mean? Come on. Paolo's a nurse. Come on. You can do it. You know what I mean? Come on. Everybody's nervous the first time. Listen. So die energy generation. Die energy is a universal, fungible, and transferable and retransferable without loss data set. This go back and forth between worlds liberally. Use it for anything, anywhere. So then I have a better articulation of it, because we have this idea for the die energy, and the die energy, I think, has become subsumed into the spells. I really think that this was like kind of like an earlier stage of kind of like we were like kind of like developing it. You earn it by doing time work. This is like the watching the movies, the reading of the books. Apply that specific time work experience to specific time warriors for specific results. This is really kind of, you know what this is? This is like workshopping. This is like, this leads to the spells, you'll see. Because of what was watched and consumed to earn, ironic or in concert. Same era, though, the energy is not just specific to you. It only exists in relationship to another reference point, a specific location and time. Therefore, the experience of 2013 is 2013 experience. So if you make a spell like from a 2013 movie, you should only use that spell in relation to like 2013, you know, games. We'll get there. One roll for, we did figure that out. Also, how many dice to roll? Temples and book stupas. I'm skipping over some of this because we don't. I just want to make sure we get to the big parts. The manifesto of cryptology, the notion of qualities is an irrelevancy in defense of the cryptopulus. All that matters is the year. Everything else is you know, irrelevant. Therefore, genre fiction is king of the castle. This is basically like, this is also a problem why I got problems with why I got into a problem with like over consumer spending. We talked about used books and like that used books at Barnes and Noble. So when they announced that Barnes and Noble was closing down, even though I had made myself a New Year's resolution to control my spending habits and only spend a certain amount per week. Oh, because, you know, that Barnes and Noble was closing down, you know, oh, you know, I had to go, even though I've got like literally books and like boxes full of like used books that I've collected from this particular Barnes and Noble over the years that I've yet to read. Oh, it was desperately important that I go there and hunt down and make sure. So I spent like another couple of $100 there, you know, going and buying, you know, more used books. I'm like, they were like $1, you know, or 50 cents when I applied my Barnes and Noble, you know, discount. But when you buy 150, you know, like when you walk out of there with 5 bags of them, it's still, they add up. It's ridiculous. Like I've got stacks of books here that I now have to like break down as to year. This is just like, these were just like, you know, it was just, I got ridiculous. A whole nother bag of what do I have? I probably have here, and this is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books here. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 books, all really kind of purchased. Some like reference made to the authors, like if I knew like them by reputation, like Roger Zelzany, I guess, like if I knew their names. But for the most part, just basically purchased, really looking at the year. So these are like, it's like I'm planning on reading books that I don't necessarily think are good. I mean, I have no problem with that. I gotta tell you something. I've read good books and I've read books that were supposed to be bad, and I have no desire to ever read a good book ever again. I gotta tell you this. Like, I have no desire to read a good book. I have no desire to see like a quality film. I have no desire to see anything of any artistic integrity ever again, as far as I'm concerned, in my life again. I have no idea how to articulate why. I really do believe that artistic achievement is just like an absolute like a farce. Like I like no like I find it like actually a little bit insufferable. But whatever. But it's still like it's kind of a problem. But whatever. So you got to be careful. So if you have like a spending addiction, watch out and don't use this as a justification or rationalization. But if you don't have a lot of money, here's the good thing: you can shop by year and not have to worry about, quality, because it's just about getting yourself, it's a means to an end. All that matters is the year. You can simply feel free to shop by year, which makes bargain basement shopping a breeze. Well, it makes overspending a breeze too. All your garbage is now awesome. You're welcome. Particularly irrelevant pieces of media crap will be good for us because we alone will build up resonance and energy vibration around them, free of intervention from the norms, squares, and pinks. And then that's also good because there are particular places, like particular like game books. Like this game book, this fighting fantasy game book is basically a sequel to Death Trap Dungeon. Death Trap Dungeon was one of the most famous fighting fantasy books of all time. So Death Trap Dungeon really is a place. And most of the fighting fantasy books are considered to have taken place kind of like it's got its own world. This place Pathfinder, I think, takes place in a place called Galarian. I believe that the place where fighting fantasy takes place is a place called, I think it was called Titan, is the world is where it takes place. So there are certain these places, these game books specifically, oftentimes evolve a specific antagonist and a specific location. Like the antagonist has like a keep or a castle. Like in Curse of the Pharaoh, there's a specific tomb, a specific mummy's tomb that you invade. In the Temple of Flame, you go to a specific, kind of basically faux Incan or Mayan, temple in a jungle, and go there and face a particular enemy. The reason I bring these up, these particular places, here's Lord of the Shadowkeep. That's a kind of a similar motif with your paladin, invading the castle of some guy. The reason I bring these places up is that locations, like those places that have like specific locations, is like you could go there and you could think of like doing things like attempting to go there and like leave something in a room, or influence something in a room and see if someone could go there and get like a psychic impression off of it, or see a difference or see a change there. Also, I want to bring those things up because this notion of using the spells and how they generate the spells. And I want to show you these game books are kind of very kind of inexpensive. Um, if you get used ones, they can be a little bit more expensive. But these ones, these Fabled Lands ones, these Golden Dragon game books that are reprints from the 80s. Here's one that was originally published in 1985 that was republished in 2013. These are fairly inexpensive. They're usually about $5 or $6 on Amazon. So if you're looking to play in these eras or in these genres, know that those are options. And I want to specifically bring up places, these ones, Curse of the Pharaoh and the Temple of Flame, because I specifically thought of them as good locations where I might engage in having these characters be able to go and be transformed and be able to change their abilities. Um, when we talked about, Greg Grunberg, and one of the videos that we took down, we talked about building a character in the fighting fantasy system that's available in Trial of Champions using the spells that we generated through my meta RPG system, and how that might affect things, or be able to affect the character and change the character. I then looked at some of these other games and said, hey, what'd be really interesting is that they use slightly different stats for this thing or this thing. I said, but really, I mean, the core stat of stamina, like the health stat, I really kind of consider like that's like the character's body. I said, but these other things like the mental acuity stat of psi, or psychic power, where they want to call it in the particular game, or agility. I said, I can imagine like the character having that stat be switched out from session to session, or from being going in this world, maybe dying in this world, or being resurrected in this other space, or being able to come back, or being able to come back into your 2003 world or 2013 world, and then being able to go back into another world with different options. So just a thing to introduce. It's difficult for me to communicate sometimes and introduce some of these things, because some people in the role-playing game space have the benefit of, they started a tabletop role-playing game YouTube channel. They started a YouTube channel about fighting fantasy game books, and then they built up an audience of people that was dedicated to that. People know that, I came from one YouTube channel to over here to over back here. So I'm all over the place. So I'm talking to people, some of whom are into tabletop role-playing games, some of whom have no kind of concept of tabletop role-playing games. And so I'm having to talk to some people who are completely ignorant about one aspect of the subject matter that I'm talking about, and then other people who are ignorant about another aspect of it, but who are informed about the previous one. So it's a very strange place to be, but it is what it is. Let me see if I can eventually get us over to the spells that I generated from the episode of The Simpsons, because that might be able to help us understand how spells are created, and therefore how the system works at the end. What goes in which notebook? The rule. Here's an example. See the trope, right? Name the trope. That's how the spells are created. You're watching a movie, you're watching a TV show, or you're reading a book. You see something that reaches out to you, that grabs you. You write it down. Spells do not always have predictable nor consistently repeatable effects. The bigger effect and the power, the more likely it is to go crazy. Okay. CW is the only Time Lord, and the rulings of the Time Lord are final. Dungeon Master analogy, all one table analogy, not house rules, house spells. Okay. $1 million genius idea, transferring spellcraft and spell effects between RPG worlds. Okay. And actual occult and esoteric works. Roll for XP from reading, apply for roll for casting, use feedback loop language, engaged. Okay, whatever. When you have the pieces, films, albums, books, tape spells, you have its essence, its DNA, and you can reproduce it lifetime after lifetime, timeline after timeline. Sounds like something like I was trying to come up with some L. Ron Hubbard shit there. Another idea: demonstrate character creation with different systems by slotting spells into ability slots to provide their numbers, and by extension, supplemental effects. Additional note about how nerdy do you want to get, i.e., resolving all rules down. How would numbers out of range affect things? Will it even matter for most players? That's what we talked about. We went on length when we did that video that I took to private. where we did the Greg Grunberg as a fighting fantasy character from the spells that we generated from Big Ass Spider. You remember everything you do in the game. That's what holds it together. It's like remote viewing with your eyes open. More hot around Hubbard shit. The more you have in common with another player in the time area, the closer they will seem to you in the closer they will seem to you, and the more real and in focus you will be to each other, for better or for worse. Like if somebody's like really into the same type of stuff that you're into, you guys will see each other in the game space. You guys will be really in focus and interacting with each other a lot. But someone else will just kind of appear like like almost like translucent or like not really there, or just like only come in when like if like all of a sudden some guy that's like really into the 90s all of a sudden is like bombing out, and then all of a sudden like watching something in the 80s, you might see him like pass through your world. But then if like he has to be in some sort of app where he comes in, like then all of a sudden you'll see him. It'd be cool. In common equals pieces of media shared and to the same degree. Like affects like, and affects like across multiple valences. It's just magical thinking, right? Read the Golden Bough. Premise. Time doesn't just move in one direction. When we go back in time, we push back inertia and force and energy in that direction. When we reprogram and change, influence the past in that small way, we reprogram the future by default. Whoa. When I repeat some of my personal mythology to you, it creates another copy in your brain, does it not? The virus thereby replicates within the system, affecting change within the collective perceived reality. Oh, hey, slow down there, Dr. Octopus. Don't take over the world in one lifetime. The love of your life, safety valve rule. We talked about that. Okay, so that was that little book, that little notebook. And then I started writing down things in the main thing. Where are my notes? The point is to get you generating energy by rolling dice against our enemies, or in aid of our allies, or in simply to fuel our time rockets. Oh God. The energy is generated by rolling dice by any means necessary. Character creation feedback loop method, because character creation is a process and process produces XP. You can roll based on actions related to character creation. This is like if you had a Dungeons and Dragons book from 2003 that you were using, and you were generating a character from that. Like if you were reading a book from 2003, that's like you were doing time work. So if you create a character using rules set from 2003, that's time work. But then you could put those spells back into the character. If you understand, you understand. If you don't, you probably don't, because I'm insane. Trust me. Over time, it'll make sense. Future Spouts, a book about a future. It's from a year. It is a portal to that future, an escape tunnel, a portal to that universe, a jump gate technology, experience. Okay, whatever. So some of this stuff I already talked about, so I don't want to be too repetitive. Right. So you watch these movies. So like if you're watching a movie or watching a TV show, you see something, and it could be something as simple as like you see a zombies. Like, so you could write down zombies. And then if you were like playing in a game with your friends or just in life and you needed zombies, you could use that spell to either throw down zombies, or you could use that. The spells can be used. When I was trying to think of a way to articulate how spells can be used, like in character creation or in the in gaming, other than just like using them like as like a wizard, an imaginary wizard, casting spells or on yourself or on others or whatever, it's in any game system where there is like a number, where there's a data point, where there's an objective number, you can put a spell in there and use it there. Like, so if it's got a stat, like with a number to it, or if it's got a skill or whatever, you could put a spell that you generate from, watching these TV shows, you could put it in there. Anyway, I think what's happening now, I've been here for an hour and 14 minutes, and I can sense for myself a couple of things. I am getting hungry. I also know and can sense that sometimes when I approach these loosey-goosey shows, I have been looking at a couple of different things, and I've been thinking about them over a sustained period of time. So I've got multiple ideas about them that, because I've been thinking about them for a long period of time, I've got a lot of kind of idea energy kind of generated about them. And maybe because I've been thinking about them for a long time, I feel as though I have a good kind of grasp on how to explain it. But then when we actually sit down and try to articulate it, I realize that despite the fact that I've been spending a lot of time thinking about it, I've been thinking about it in my head. And there's a difference between how those thoughts are processed in my head and how they translate out, out onto the dashboard. So if you saw last night's episode of The Simpsons from 2003 in 2023, Pray Anything, you'll be able to see maybe how this spell crafting works. It's not a tight rule. There's no 1-to-1 ratio. It's not, you can generate a spell like this. You can see a character, animal, thing that you like and generate it. It's, you're watching the show. You see something. Something happens. A character says a line. Whatever. And you can articulate it. You can write down what happened. You can come up with a phrase. You can come up with an idea that made sense to you, and you write it down, or it can just be kind of based on it. When the episode starts, Bart Simpson is writing on the chalkboard, as he does in his opening gag, SpongeBob SquarePants is not a contraceptive. So I wrote down as my first spell, SpongeBob contraceptive. So you could be playing this MetaRPG. You might be playing like as a co-op role-playing game. You and your friends are exploring some sort of imaginary space. You're walking around a flight hangar or whatever, and you're being pursued by Rando Urbanskis. They're after us. What do we need? Oh my God, throw something at them. We got to block this door. What I mean? Well, I got this, go Giants, thing, from bumper sticker. Okay, we're going to use that to make something big. I got this SpongeBob contraceptive. Put that in the doorway. I throw SpongeBob contraceptive in the doorway. I roll for SpongeBob contraceptive. If it's a 1, we got nothing. It's a dud. What do we got? We got this number. Okay, so it's on the board. Whatever. Go Giants. Throw it at it. Good. Block the door. SpongeBob contraceptive. Thank God. You know what I mean? Or you're building a character, you're building a female character. Say you want her to be some sort of honeypot or some sort of like universal like ingenue or some sort of thing. Or maybe you want her to have this power of not getting pregnant. In the character creation process, I don't know, you utilize SpongeBob contraceptive. Or you and a particular someone are playing this game. SpongeBob contraceptive. You know what I mean? Or, you're playing and you're like, in this game, we need, we're going to be, our cover story is that we are executives from a company that sells a product. And we're all out of widgets. What are we going to sell? We spell SpongeBob contraceptives. Okay. Moving on. I just have the phrase far-fetched. It doesn't have to be tied to the specific incident. If you saw the episode, you know where it is. Homer says far-fetched. It's just far-fetched. It could be a phrase. And you can use and you don't have to decide when you write the spell down what it's going to be. Some spells I write down just because I know that it could be like kind of could be used for this, it could be used for that. Far-fetched, it could be anything. You could maybe use it to sense it. A guy gets sent across that ravine. Far-fetched? Oh, maybe that'll work for that. Yeah, I don't know. Yet another Lisa, Leslie, because when we've been watching these Simpsons episodes, the name Lisa always comes up. And they actually have this gal, Lisa Leslie, that they reference. Lisa Leslie's on the 20 nostalgia. Look where she is now. I write down extreme choir as a spell. Oh, Lord, that could be for anything. It could be a skill, could generate it. I cast extreme choir. Blow them away. Hurry up and miss. That's a great spell. Cast on someone that they're attacking you. They just got initiative. Yep, they did. Hurry up and miss. Put the head back on. Someone gets decapitated. Cast that spell. Put the head back on. Right? A little prayer. I just wrote that phrase down. Someone says a little prayer. I wrote it down. A little prayer. Vengeful God. Maybe it's an invocation. Cast Vengeful God, it shows up. Or maybe you just want that to be a characteristic. You're generating a character. Maybe it's something as simple as a fighting fantasy character. And then all of a sudden, the last stage, maybe as their stamina stat, you slide that in there. You still generate the stamina stat the same way, whatever. But you put on that boilerplate, Vengeful God. It's like what they are. Maybe they're a meek ass vengeful God. They're minor, but it's still you'll know that it has some sort of essence. And part of this whole spellcraft is that we're trying to get this role playing away from these numbers and these stats and these lines and these graphs and this math. We're trying to get it to stories and narrative, but not just stories and narrative that you just make up a new narrative and story, because there is no new narrative and story. We're trying to work with the 80s as clay. We're trying to work with Mel Gibson's insanity from Lethal Weapon as an essential oil that we can get out and rub on a bullet. That we can, shoot at an inflatable grenade-flavored llama to make it dissipate and disappear. Whatever. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just whatever. I command you. Oh, fudge. Another spell. Some kind of holy concierge. Someone makes it like, you can't order God around like some kind of holy concierge is the line that Marge uses. And I said to myself, brilliant! So I wrote it down as a spell. Some kind of holy concierge. So you're in the middle of nowhere. You don't know what you're doing. You can't blah, blah, blah. You can't. And remember what I said about gaming in real life or gaming in the virtual world? If you're in real life and you're just fucked over, why not cast some kind of holy concierge? You never know. Is it that it doesn't work or that you don't believe? Are you sure? Are you sure? Some kind of holy concierge. Come on, that's just brilliant. Jesus died for this? Oh. Driving drunk in a graveyard. That could be like a plot element. Or you could cast that on someone and all of a sudden they find themselves doing that. The deed to the church, it's just a thing, right? It's like some of these spells could just be like objects that you generate. Like you could cast that to generate the deed to the church, a church. Now remember, that's the first church of Springfield, right? That's the deed to the church. So that's technically the church of Springfield. So if you were in like the Trial of Champions, we could go to some kind of crazy thing and we could take we could generate the church, the deed to the church of Springfield, and we could just like put it somewhere. Put it in the skeleton's pelvis. you know, sticking up. CW, you're so bad. I know, but like, you know. It's like his penis. He thinks he's papal. Another one. Roll that rock. A magic lens that can see into people's souls. So Artie Pye, the man in the sky, the weather guy, the traffic guy, is like he's yelling at Kent Brockman. He's talking about it being a slow news day, and Kent Brockman is asking him about how people are feeling about the Church of Springfield being sold or whatever. And Kent and Artie Pye says to him, "What the like? Why are you asking me that question? I don't have because I don't have a magical lens that can see into people's souls." He says that. So I wrote it down. A magic lens that can see into people's souls. There you go. That's a spell. You could roll and then you could generate it. Now, here's what I also like. Your dad's old hunting trophy. That's another one. That was the last spell that I generated. But check this out. I want to write this. I wrote this down too. This was what I thought was killer. Check this out. One of the beauties of the system is that the spells are so rare. You gather them out one at a time. They are minted one at a time. They are generated one at a time. They are single use. Therefore, you must stay continuously engaged in the process, and the process is always evolving as you are always watching new and different things and are therefore generating different spells, especially as you move forward through time. Tip: don't obsess about gathering the spells. Remembering the spell book also serves as a simple recording diary of where you've been in your time loop journey. Don't ruin your time. Like if you gotta just chill out and watch TV because you got to chill and watch TV because you've had a tough day, don't be ruined it by taking too many by just making too many spells. But the spells are single use. So if I watched Undefeatable with like Cynthia Rock, like that kick ass chick from the killed everyone, like she was like the kung fu girl from like the 90s, from 1993. They call them death matches. Give me a beat. Nice chains. The Red Dragons. Pop that bass, yo. Like these are all the spells I generated off that movie. I just generated like 10. I don't overdo it. Like I don't just like do it every time. I'm not hungry. Pocket watch. All-American football fighter. Plink. To demonstrate great skill in the martial arts. Here's Warriors from Hell from 1993. Africa is in my blood. Good old-fashioned minefield clearance. Cover the equalizer. I don't even know what that even means. Move them out. Remember, there's no escape. Leave the dead be. It's a booby trap. Come on, let's move. A requiem for the dead. Sometimes you'll just see that you won't even be something that somebody said. It'll just be like there was like someone burying the dead, and they were playing this like crazy synthesizer, like ooh, like music, and I was just like wrote down a requiem for the dead. Nightmare visions, ambush, a little target practice, and I wrote down with music. Rest easy, my friend. There's some good ones I had here. Take more pills. Human synthscape. They're just like things like that. And so you use them, but once you use them, you got to cross them out. You know what I mean? So that's it. So like once you use them up, you'd have to watch the movie again to generate the more spells. So it's not like, it's like that's what keeps it going. That's what keeps you engaged. But when you did use that spell, it's not just, magic missile from page 39 of the player's handbook of third edition Dungeons and Dragons. It's the magic missile tripod gun shooter from Oblivion or whatever it is. And when you use that to be your fighting fantasy character's deployable tripod mechanism machine, whatever, there's part of you that kind of is supposed to know that kind of fuses that character with that moment in that movie. And then that kind of is, makes it more than just numbers and stats on a page. That's what's supposed to be happening. That's what we hope happens. And as we move forward through time, what is also hopefully going to happen is that some of this is going to go from the theoretical to the actual, and that people will actually, you'll see me play, like you'll see me play, one of these characters through a game book, or we'll start playing, like, I can play with you guys, like if like, I think some of it may be like, people need to, like, be handheld or whatever, like if people want to, need a demonstration of play or whatever, we can do that too. Okay, so it's an hour and 30 minutes on this thing. Here we go. Okay. Here's genocide. So in theory, I could use TV or movies. What about YouTube? Should I even ask this, or just do what I want? Okay, well, absolutely. It never hurts to ask. Ask away. And ask. Always feel free to ask. Ask. Absolutely, you could do TV and movies. Absolutely, you could do YouTube. What you want to do is you want to be kind of know where you are in regards to the meta narrative of the time travel technology. We do want to pay attention to this notion of using the specific, the paying attention to this energy of time, this notion of this kind of like this like chrono radiation. This, if you're watching a YouTube video, like if you're watching a wrestling match or a YouTube video from like 2013, you'd want to use that energy for, a 2013 game experience or game moment or whatever. But, to the degree that, that is, whatever, the big thing for you is that the system works for you. So if it kind of makes sense for you, then it's working. We just wouldn't want people to develop so many unique systems that there would be an excessive amount of confusion, or that we wouldn't be able to recognize each other. So we'd want, there to be this. Also, I want there to be freedom for people to expand themselves, but I also want there to be enough consistency so that, that things can make some sort of sense. And so that's like why I have these rules. Like for me, it's like why I always say like me being the only Time Lord. It's like part of that notion is like me being base. So if people go off and do their own wacky shit, if someone goes crazy, people could always say as a baseline, there's CW Chanter, who's kind of realm and this like the the years and the chronological this stuff, that's base, and CW Chanter's kind of baseline spaces where he said, you can always find him in 2013, you can always find him in 2003, he's always around in 1995, you can always see him around 11s and 22s. That sort of thing is that notion of like if two players had a problem and one person thought that another person was really, really fucking around with them, there'd always be this kind of baseline of you could always come back to being more like CW Chanter's system, to be like, well, I'm away from you, closer to, I'm at the 2003 CW Chanter base camp. Fuck that shit. You can't even touch me here, right? There's Time Warrior Police all up in this joint. You ain't doing shit here. Fuck that shit, genocide. You ain't, you know what I mean? Don't even mess with me. You know what I mean? Like it would be like that. But if you and another individual said CW Chanter with his fucking rules about this, that, and the other thing, whatever. I'm doing my thing over here. I'm doing this. It's an adjunct. It's a hack, whatever. I'm not here to really look to like bust balls or be like, I'm certainly not looking to Mendoza anybody. You know what I'm saying? I'm not looking to be like, genocide, if you want to take my IP and start thinking that you're doing a meta RPG, well, then that's some stupid shit. There you go. So you're saying like how did I read your mind? No fucking way. I was thinking wrestling commentary. What the fuck's it? There you go. Absolutely. I said a little prayer. It's a song written by Burt Bacharach and Hal David for Dionne Warwick. Burt Bacharach just passed. Oh my God. Did he just pass? That's crazy. Hey. So there you go. So I'm gonna keep it high and tight, and I'm gonna wrap it up. Okay, folks. I'm gonna do the last thing and say I think I may have showed you this thing last time. This came in. We got another Exalted book that came in. I'm keeping track of the things that came in because I'm not buying. I'm trying to not buy. I'm not trying to. I'm not buying more RPG books. I don't need to buy more RPG books. I'm not trying to buy more books, really, at all. So I'm part of my self reporting is telling you when I told you that these 22 books were coming in, that I had these 22 books remaining, and that when these 22 books came in, I was going to take the Amazon app off my phone. So as things come in, I'm letting you know. We've got the Book of Three Circles. This is for Exalted. Exalted is the world of White Wolf, which was, like Vampire Masquerade and the various other, like Mage and like those ones. But this is their ancient world. So it's like if those games took place in the modern era, this is those worlds, like the vampires and the mummies and the gods, but this is them in the ancient earth world before this modern incarnation. And this is like the magic system, or an addendum to the magic system. And I got it because I'm a compulsive spender. No, I'm a compulsive purchaser. No, well, because it was going to be, and it's going to be, inform my spellcraft. But of course, I knew that I was getting way into buying too many things when I had apparently run out of things to buy from 2003 and 2013, 1998, and so on, because saw this book was from 2001. So I knew that I was, getting into some areas. But that's what we do. We see that there's a problem and we solve, or try to. There is no try, there's only do. Here we go. Also, the Palladium RPG book 2, Old Ones. I grew up on Palladium RPGs, but not really the fantasy one. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Robotech game were my jam. Here is This is from 1984, but this is the 5th printing from January 1993. So that's on the 30-year nostalgia loop. But what I really liked about this was it's all cities and different locations. Like it's supposed to be the most comprehensive book of cities ever, including 21 forts, 34 towns and cities, over half a dozen adventurers, monks, illusionists, and the dreaded Old Ones. So, because it was common areas like places, the theory is that, just like it described in the game books, that we could have people saying, okay, this place, like we're going to be at this place, or we're going to go there. Here's the old one. Let's see what they have for the old ones. And I guess these would be like Cthulhu people. Here you go. Here are the old ones. The old ones are said to have existed long before the dawn of man, during the time of chaos. Powerful beyond all imagination, they are credited as the originators of all magic, a power they used to create sorrows and despair. It is described in the Tristane Chronicles how the dragons, titans, elves, and other archaic, now dead races joined forces to destroy the old ones in a battle that would reshape the face of the planet. In the end, the old ones proved to be invincible, but fell to a powerful magic slumber created by the angel Locum, the dragon Kimnark Mar, and the elf Lictalone. Fearful of destroying them for fear of what the backlash from releasing their magic energies might do to the world, they left them to sleep, imprisoned in the very bowels of the earth. Oh, yeah. And of course, this is Palladium all the way. They're like, and when you buy this book, you get the old ones. And I'm thinking you're probably thinking of like deities and demigods, like the friggin' whatever. Here are all the old ones. There you go. They're the old ones. Like a paragraph each, like a little plink. You know what I mean? But there you go. Who needs more? There's that. And then this came in. The Alternity Player's Handbook by Bill Slavicek and Richard Baker. This is from 1998, so this is on the 25-year nostalgia loop, and this is from TSR. This is one of the last products that they made. This was their science fiction role-playing game. So Dungeons and Dragons was their flagship, fantasy game. This was going to be their last attempt at trying to create a science fiction game. So this is 1998. This is right before TSR goes belly up and is bought by Wizards of the Coast. When Wizards of the Coast gets them, I think they kind of leave on the side. Oh, no. When Wizards of the Coast buy them, they then, what ends up happening is that I guess what was Alternity then turns into D20 Modern, D20 Future, and I guess Dark Matter, I guess would be kind of it as well, like kind of their version of the X-Files. So, but this is like kind of like a game that never really kind of happened because it just the company went kind of out. And I have a document cam that I bought that I got to set up. The Alternity game isn't the AD&D game with spaceships and ray guns. It's brand new. This is from Bill Slavichek and Richard Baker, because this would have been like, it's not friggin' yeah. There you go. But some of the art I saw already was just beautiful. And I love the graphics. I just love notion of like, like this just, it's very just, because some of this stuff is great because it's just interesting to see, to come back and to see like kind of like where role playing was when like I left it, you know what I mean? Like where things like went right after I left. Love like Aliens influence, obviously. Look at this. This is great. It's like Between Worlds. It was this from like the 1990s to the 1970s. Like this is like the nostalgia loop. This is 1998. That arc could have been from 1978. Great stuff. Great stuff. Oh my God! Just look at this. Look, I love this because this was TSR. This is the problem with TSR at the end. Like, look at that. It's like, is this a role playing game book, or is this my like 8th grade like science book? Remember, look at this. Like, this is like indistinguishable from like some of my like high school like science books. Like, honestly. Wait. Jonasite says, did you know in 97 I did get a VTM tattoo, the cover of the book of not? Oh my God. I'm trying to think. There's another one I saw. Small businesses, knowledge, set explosives, scratch and build explosives, law. It's good stuff. Here we go. Forensic specialist begins a frail autopsy. Love it. Somebody call Emery Smith. Good stuff. Oh my God. Amazing. So yeah, good stuff. And so I'm glad this also, because I don't think I had anything from 98. And that was like, of course, my justification. Like, I need something from 98. No, you don't, but it is whatever. But I'm good. I'm happy. I got so much out of. Look at this. This is great. Look at this art. This is brilliant. This is 98 all the way. Look at that. Oh my God. This is like, but this is what so much fun. When you get into this and you really commit, oh my God, when you're sitting there and you are watching episode number 3 of friggin' Renegade with Lorenzo Lamas, and you're sitting there with like looking at that from Alternity, and you're like, drinking Dr. Pepper and like have like pizza, and you're like, it's 98, dude. There are moments when no alcohol, no drugs, you can be like, holy shit, I am in another dimension. It's great. And it's just about trying to figure out how to get there without spending too much money, without just making it about, consumerism, with trying to increase and make and maximize the amount of, true exploration and true spirituality. So wild and crazy show, all over the place, all over the map. Hopefully we got something out of it. Hopefully things made sense. I don't know. You can edit this as much as you want to, edit none of it. Whatever. Also, I got to I'm yawning. Then I gotta go. Oh shoot, I gotta go, yeah. So this is from 83, The Villains of Volturnus. Oh my God, I started buying all these like books and I'm like, dude, you realize these books are for children. And I'm like, shit, yeah, they are. What am I going to do, read them? I guess so. Check this out. Where was I? You run after the stun stick and finally find it in the grass. You pick up the treasured gift and return it to your pouch. When you look up, you notice a large circular platform made of stone. In the middle stands a large, complicated-looking crystalline structure. You step up on the platform to inspect the structure. It's about 2 meters high on its pedestal with long white crystals jutting out at odd angles all around it. You touch some of the long crystals in awe. Nothing moves. Then you notice a round knob between crystals at the center of the structure. You reach in past the crystals and grasp it. It turns slightly. And suddenly there's a great blinding flash. You jerk your hand back from the crystal and the light dies. What have I done? You whisper in horror and turn to look for your tutor. But he's no longer by the locked hut. In fact, there's nothing there. The shacks are gone, Jack is gone, and there's something seems wrong with the trees. They are smaller and younger than they were a few minutes ago. What happened? You pinch yourself to see if you're dreaming, but you're awake. Maybe the crystal structure has something to do with it. You did turn the knob slightly. Maybe you should turn it back. You hesitate. What if something drastic happens? But what else can you do? Reaching into the crystal structure again, you grasp the knob. Here goes nothing, you think, and eyes closed, turn it slightly. Slowly, you turn your head and open one eye to peek behind you. It's okay. You breathe a deep sigh of relief. There's Jack standing where he was before, near one of the shacks, and there's Pongo swinging by 1 foot from a branch. Walking over to Jack, you say, Jack, I've got to tell you something. You hesitate, not sure he'll believe your story. But then you notice Jack's peculiar expression. What's the matter, you ask? I don't know. There was a great light, and then I seemed to fade away just for a moment, Jack confesses hesitantly. You don't know how glad I am to hear that. Glad? Why are you glad? Jack is puzzled. Well, I was wondering how to tell you what just happened to me. But I guess it happened to you too, and you explained something somewhat confusedly. What happened? Murmurs Jack, thinking. Maybe it's some sort of time device. You moved the knob only slightly, so time turned back only slightly. Younger trees, no camp. Then the Vrusk gets excited. That's his alien species. What a wonderful find. Why, we could have a living Voltarian history lessons. You and Jack go back to the stone circle to examine the crystalline structure. The Vrusk pokes and prods, but avoids touching the knob in the center. Well, young one, do you want to see Voltarian history firsthand? He asks. rather like a child with a new toy, you think. 1, if you choose to try the time machine again, turn to page 74. 2, if you decide to stay in your own time so that you won't miss being rescued, turn to page 31. If we add a 3 and a 1 together, we get a 4. If you add 7 and 4 together, it's 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, we'll go to 74. Since we know we can get back to today, let's try the time machine again, you say. Jack hesitates. Okay, Kaiki, but I insist that we change time only in small amounts. We just don't know enough Voltarian history to take a chance. Okay, I'll just turn it a tiny bit. You, Jack, and Pongo gather around the control knob. Pongo grabs at the crystals. Stop it, Pongo. Bad boy, you shout. You turn back to the time machine, take hold of the knob, and turn it slightly. There's a blinding flash. When it clears, you see that the scene around you has changed only slightly. Duck, Kaiki, whispers Jack urgently. You duck without questioning why. Then, peeking around the pedestal, you see why. The camp is alive with monkey-like Azarians, insect-shaped Vrusk, humans, even a couple of Dralisiites. What do you suppose these people are doing here, you ask? I don't know, says Jack, puzzled. Maybe they can help us. Just as you're about to show yourself, you hear a shout. You see a large Azarian dressed in black, cracking a big whip. The whip descends on the long back of a Rusk. Jack winces in sympathy. Next time, maybe you'll remember your orders, barks the big Azarian. We better get back to our own time, you whisper. Jack nods in agreement. You reach for the knob, but Jack stops you. Wait, he says. Look over there. You look where he is pointing and see a large spaceship descending. As you watch, the ship disappears behind some trees. The people in the camp are busy gathering weapons excitedly. The Azarian in black shouts, Take the long way around. Let them do all the work before we take their cargo. They're going to hijack that ship, you gasp. Let's get out of here, quick. Right, agrees Jack. But be careful. Slowly, you reach for the knob and turn it ever so slightly back. The sky fills with a golden light as it clicks gently into place. Okay, Jack breathes with relief. We're gone, they're gone. At least we're safe. Hey, Jack, look. The camp is just like they left it. We moved only an hour or so. Right. That means they could be back at any time. We have 2 choices, Kaiki. 1, if we go back to the time we were just in, maybe we can reach the cargo ship before the pirates. We might both escape and save the cargo too. If this is your choice, turn to page 68. 2, or let's go back further in time and see if we can find another way to get home. If this is your choice, turn to page 45. That would be a 9. It says, the 13 or a 9, I guess. Well, no, 14 or who knows. Well, let's not do that now. Let's just know that we have more adventures to await of us once we turn 3 years old in 1985. Hey, listen, I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you. If nobody told you I love you today, don't worry, I haven't forgotten the card. Yeesh. I've been very effective at work. I've been getting a lot of work done. Whatever happened with that thing I had to go through with the processing on whatchamacallit, the thing I had to process, yada yada. There was obviously something like real there that was very effective and efficient, because since then, I've been a lot more effective at work. The days since then, I've got a lot more done. What was I came over here for? Oh, the cards. Okay. So now this is going to get tough for me because we got the Egyptian Tarot. This is from 2003, so it's on the loop. But this is a pure pip deck, meaning that when, the minor arcana, it gives you no help. Oh, Lord have mercy. So some of these might throw me for a loop, and I just got to go with the flow. I just got to do it. And I just got to accept it. And if I look like a chump tarot card reader, I look like a chump tarot card reader. I just got to take it. I just got to take it like a man. Looking like a dick. Looking like a real jerk. Like this guy doesn't read tarot cards. I gotta look like a schmuck. Hopefully, I'll do better. And don't panic. Don't panic. Don't panic. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. Oh man, we're freak out. Don't freak out. It's actually from 1983. I'm sorry, I said 1985. It's 1983 because we're on the nostalgia loop. I got another one, another what's called a Super Endless Quest book. That's an Endless Quest book from TSR. But it's just basically an Endless Quest book from TSR. Is basically just a choose your own adventure book. But they also have these ones called Super Endless Quest that are like more like fighting fantasy books. But the one I have from that is 1985, so it's technically off loop. But I could do it in 1993, but you just don't want to get so loosey goosey that you can't find yourself back home. Like it stops meaning anything. I'm sorry, God. Oh, come on. Here we go. Come on. No whammies. Come on. Shuffle it again. Killing it. May we all have a good weekend. Wherever you are. Thank you so much for coming out. Everyone who came out and supported. Feel free to edit this video any way you like. If you watch my material, you watch my stuff, and you see any way, you know any way, you think of any way that you know that I could improve, ways that things could be easier, things that I'm explaining, you think that need a better improvement of the things that need to be explained a little bit better, let me know. 1983, 2003, 2013, 2023, 1998 is on the 25-year nostalgia loop. All good things. We've got the Knave of Pentacles. So this is Earth of Earth. In some tarot decks, the pages are male. In some decks, they are princesses. Here, they are like scribes. They are they're just like pages. They're just like messengers. So Earth of Earth. We are of the material nature. We are of the material space. A distinction need not be drawn. When we say, as above, so below, as below, so above, that is another way of saying things are just one. These distinctions are apparent distinctions. All of these cards are always present. All of their energies are always present in all of us and in all of each other. It's just the card that's facing us is the most prevalent energy, active energy, present energy at that particular now, at that magic moment of asking. Here we see a recording taking place. Likewise, we make recordings in our brain. And likewise, we can understand these physical recordings as being manifestations of these ephemeral things that we think of not being able to touch, these invisible things like thoughts, ideas, concepts, justice, love. But we see that these thoughts and ideas are real. They do exist. They do have a physicality. They're measurable. They're electric. They might very well go from entity to entity, or be capable of such, or certainly are capable of such with so-called artificial addition like the telephone wire, the fiber optic cable. But what is artificial? What is the real? What is yours? You say the fiber optic cable is not mine because it can be taken away, but can I not take away your eyes, your ears? But let's not talk of loss or worry about that. Let's think of what is present in all that we have. In this world and in this life, we can encounter hardship and suffering and experience pain. But we can also experience gnosis, knowledge, love, and growth. And I may not know what that is for, but I know that even if it just be an illusion, I have plenty of contenders of what that for may be. May your weekend be full of happiness, good times, and cheer. May the lords and ladies of the universe keep you in their hearts and minds. May you be watched over. May you be blessed. May the same be true for your loved ones, for your adversaries, for your lovers and loathers. Okay? May it all be glorious, glorious, glorious. And may the message of the MetaRPG spread further and further and further out amongst the angels. Spiked Axis, I thought about evaluating 2022 and then doing 2012, 2002, and 1992. Seems like a long-term goal. We'll baby step it low. That sounds great. I think that sounds fantastic. I talked about Jiggy yesterday's stream, Spooky. I talked about Jiggy in yesterday's stream. I love you. Okay? So you'll look to that one. And it was brief. Okay? I love you, I love you, I love you. 30-year loop on X-Files and Jurassic Park. Truth is out there, 1995. Co-star Bruce Harwood returned from a gathering of the X-Files fans not long ago with a button for his long-haired partner in crime, Dean Haglund, that says simply, "I'm not Garth." There you go. Better days. I love you, I love you, I love you. We'll be in touch. Take care, y'all. Take care, y'all. Take care, y'all. Be good, be good, be good. A great year. We got so much going on in 1993. It's not even funny. Hey, I graduated high school. They graduated me. My God. The fools. The fools. I love you. Until next time.